midst of all this major ROSTERMANIA news that we've been having, I thought it'd be good now that we kind of have a little moment in time to kind of hone in on the rosters that aren't fully announced as of yet. I think it was the CDL who kind of tweeted out official roster changes that have taken place due to the social media from certain CDL teams. So based off of that list, what is confirmed by the teams as of right now and recognized by the CDL, I kind of want to go in depth a little bit on each team that does not have a fully announced four-man lineup and kind of talk a little bit about the rumors that we've seen from a few of these teams, things that I think would be good for them to kind of move forward with and kind of go from there. So kind of giving some CDL roster change predictions, some analysis on things that I think would be good to see from a few of these rosters as well. We'll kind of go from there. So the first team that we've really not heard anything about is the Florida Mutineers. I don't believe we've heard any details on players that are released. There's been no real details on anything regarding the Mutineers right now. And due to that being the case, I normally assume that if players aren't tweeting out, hey, restricted free agent or unrestricted free agent, that most likely means that a conversation is happening or they know that a destination for them is already known. Now, there are players at times that, despite having a good situation with their franchise, will still make themselves known as a free agent just to kind of see other options. But the fact that the Florida Mutineers, all of them have kind of remained the same, indicates to me that most likely something is happening in a major way. And obviously, there are rumors that Skies, Pharaoh, and Awakening are returning. There's questions on whether or not Havoc could kind of be their fourth moving forward. And we haven't really heard too much about Frosty either. Now, for my opinion, I don't know if this is Frosty possibly maybe just kind of not, I'll say maybe not kind of being in the same core group of these guys, or if it's maybe him looking at other franchises, maybe him looking at something like Halo Infinite, I think could definitely be a possibility as well. There's a lot of hype around that game, a lot of potential possibly with a game like that. We know Frosty obviously comes from Halo. He's a world champion. It would not be surprising to me whatsoever if Frosty does kind of try out that venture yet again after being a home series champion, multiple home series champion here in COD. To go back to Halo, I think would definitely be an interesting story. Again, you have Skies, Pharaoh, Awakening, guys who are very talented throughout the entirety of the season for this roster. Pharaoh and Awakening, who were two players that were brought in kind of late in the season. It's not surprising to kind of see this group where they are. I think if you are this group and you're moving forward with this team in particular, pretty much the four-man lineup, but without Frosty, I would like to see them make a focus in some capacity on making sure they don't lose a stable voice like him. I think that he was very important to this team, but yet that wasn't always communicated to this roster. So I'll be honest, I was actually really hoping that Looney would kind of end up here, someone who I think could be a solid player, someone who could work with the SMGs from time to time. Again, he's not the same player that somebody like Havoc is, and obviously Havoc at different times looked excellent throughout this season, so I'm not doubting that, but I think they are going to lose in some way a stable voice, and I would have liked to see that most likely happen. However, based on, again, the talks that we've kind of heard but not heard from the Florida Mutineers, it looks as if that will be the case. Now, one team that we have absolutely no idea what's going to happen with is the Paris Legion. Have not heard any details on this team as of yet. The only details that we know is that all players are officially released. They had no one on their lineup, whether it's on the starting lineup, whether it's on the bench. There have been a number of different rumors coming around on what players could possibly be staying. There were rumors that said basically Dens and Zed could be staying here. I think Dens would probably make the most sense out of the two, given both of their situations currently. Right, we talk about someone like Dens, who at times looked fantastic for the Paris Legion. In terms of being in that main AR position, he was kind of labeled as one of the best in the start of the season. Paris Legion had a great beginning of the year, and a lot of that was due to the play that Dens had for this roster. When you talk about the connections of this group, he connected a lot of different guys. You talk about Dens and Zed, their history together. You talk about the Aussie presence. He was big for that as well. So I think it would make sense if we see someone like Den stick around, but also at the same time, if you're in the position of Paris Legion, there's rumors talking on how they don't want to spend a whole lot of money in terms of grabbing players, which I said is actually a smart move. It is a smart move depending on the way that they strategize. It could be a while before we really know what's going on with the Paris Legion. I think it would be smart to take a look at the challenger scene. If you are wanting to go the cheaper route, I think you're going to have a lot of players who are making themselves known to you. Get a lot of guys for the minimum, I think is definitely understandable and expected. There's been rumors like guys on Pred for RNG last year in the APAC Challenger region. I know that they had kind of lost what was a French talent, right? We talked about a number of different players who have kind of been on their radar, guys like Hydra. And then now the recent rumors are going on that they're bringing in some French players, guys like Brezzy, guys like Whalers. Could we see Parasite? Aches has been making a lot of comments. Could we see the Twins in terms of Scraps and Wuskin make themselves known on this roster as well? And someone who I think is highly under the radar, someone like Asim. I saw just the other day, talked on how he has not gotten a single offer, has not had any conversations with franchises. I think that Paris has the ability to be regarded as the international team. They don't have to limit themselves to one region in specific. They have the ability to bring in players from all different kind of rounds, if you will. That includes the challenger scene. So again, if I'm Paris and the rumors are true that they are kind of very lost in terms of what to do next, I think you bring in a solid veteran player, or you bring in someone who's kind of a very good COD mind in terms of a stable GM, build from there. There is no reason why you shouldn't be able to find solid pieces, and it sounds like Zed is gone as well. So again, you have a lot of moving pieces, you have a lot of flexibility with this team, you have players that you could start to bring back if you'd like, and so I guess you could say the rumors from there aren't really kind of official or really known. And we talk about the London Royal Ravens next. Really the only details we know about them, Shawnee's re-signed, and that is really it. The rumor is essentially that they are bringing in Alex, possibly Zed, from the Paris Legion. Alex would obviously be kind of coming from the Minnesota Rocker. There's also rumors talking on how Dylan could potentially be back. Zero could possibly be coming back as well. So I think this is a fine team. Really, if this is going to work out the way that it seems, where Zed could potentially be on the bench, you'd have Zero, Dylan, Shawnee, and Alex. You're bringing in Alex. You're pretty much losing the Twins, if you will, which obviously has been a big kind of talking point for majority of the year, or majority of the offseason now after the major year that we just saw with those two. Wuskin had a great season with the main AR. We saw Scraps really start to kind of pick it up toward the end of the year as well. Two guys who are absolutely brand-known players, and it is going to be kind of surprising if we don't see them kind of moving forward with London. However, that seems to be the case. I will say with this London team, I like what they've got going, kind of that reciprocity reunion. Guys like Alex, Zed, Shawnee, and Dylan all together. And again, if you are losing someone like Scraps, someone like Wuskin, I think that Dylan needs to be your guy again. I think Alex has the ability to be that guy again. We know how talented that he was back in the last 4v4 COD in World War II. He had an excellent start here in Modern Warfare with the Rocker as well. I like the direction that London is going. However, it is going to be odd to think that the Twins are not going to be on that team moving forward, based off the rumors, obviously. And the next team, right, that we've got, we're kind of bouncing from roster to roster. The next one would be the New York Subliners, right? You have Clayster, Zuma, and Mac. Current question, who is going to be the fourth? A lot of rumors were kind of coming around saying that Pharaoh from the Florida Mutineers could be joining this team as a flex. Now that seems to be kind of maybe no longer happening right now. It sounds like Florida maybe is kind of holding on to him. It seems as if Hydra, potentially from the French region, if you will, the EU region for challengers, or possibly John could be on this team as well, maybe even both of them. And I will say I am excited about this team. Those fourths were never really in my personal radar for guys that they would get, but I don't mind them. After watching Hydra a few different times throughout the EU Challenger scene, he was absolutely fantastic. He looks like kind of one of the next best kind of up-and-comers, and when we talk about the talent that he's faced off against, it is known that he is one of the best players in that region, and without question, the best French player right now. But I think, like I said, you have some good flexibility here. I prefer Mac to probably be kind of that second AR. Maybe you bring in someone like John or Hydra who has more experience with the SMG, someone who can work alongside Zuma well. I think that would be great. Again, someone like Asim floats around. Don't think that's a bad idea either. But again, John has his kind of leave when it comes down to last season. When you have a very young prospect and someone like Hydra, Clayster has talked about him numerous times. I think there was a lot of potential with this team. And I kind of like the direction that they're going. Not expecting the fourth after all the rumors. But like I said, rumors are obviously have been pretty accurate so far. And as we kind of go toward the ending stretch, Los Angeles Guerrillas. Now, currently, nobody is confirmed. The only player that is still here right now, based on what we know, is Vivid. And there's a lot of directions, right, that you can go with the Los Angeles Guerrillas. You had some struggles last season. You brought in a number of different guys. You tried to rebuild. You could argue it worked when it comes into different situations, but they never really saw a ton of success. There is a major rumor kind of coming through that the old EG COD Champs team back from World War II, 3/4 of them could be reuniting on this team. Silly, Assault, and Apathy. Those players would be alongside Vivid. I think that's an interesting venture. I really do. I think those guys like playing alongside each other. We saw Silly and Assault kind of ride it out on Minnesota Rocker throughout the throughout the entirety of the Modern Warfare season. Apathy does not have a great venture when we talk about the Seattle Surge. It'd make total sense. And there also is a major rumor kind of going around this team that Mental, right? We've talked about Mental a few different times. Gears of War professional, one of the greatest Gears players of all time, making the transition to COD. Rumors that he could be the substitute for the Los Angeles Guerrillas. Which I'm a massive fan of. So I think if you are the Guerrillas, from a franchise standpoint, this is probably the best direction that you can go. Go with some stable veterans, kind of play the same cards that Rocker did last year, get some exciting pieces, get some well-known franchise kind of names, and kind of ride it out from there, right? Try to do your best, try to bring together a solid group. And when we talk about the talent that three of those guys have, especially, when we talk about their run back, in World War II, winning that champs title, it's important. There's a history there, and you have a very young, talented player and someone like Vivid, who I'm very, very excited to watch when we talk about next season. You have a very exciting prospect in someone like Mental, who could be coming off the bench potentially from time to time. Not guaranteed in any case, but I think that they do have a lot of promise, and I'm very excited to see Vivid's progression if that roster does kind of roll through. Optic Gaming LA, Slasher, Kenny, Draza, all of them are confirmed to be here. Rumors that Draza is going to be a substitute. TJ Halley is supposed to be signing with this team as well. You're losing Dashy. Who do you essentially fill that void with? The recent rumor is that Temp could possibly be joining this team. You talk about this group in particular, I think that the talent is there's no doubt, right? The talent that Temp has, the talent that Slasher, Kenny, TJ have, it's undeniable. I'm not sure how well he fits with this team, and I'm not sure exactly how well he is going to work with the names that are on this roster in particular. There were rumors that they wanted Gunless. There's rumors now that they want Temp. I think for this team, and I don't know what exactly Optic's vision is, no pun intended, kind of for their roster in terms of the future, but I don't feel like you always have to go with the big names, right? I feel like for Optic right now, and this will be a later subject once their roster gets announced, but I feel like they don't always have to go with the big names that are always out there. They don't have to go for the heavy hitters. It would be odd, without question, to not see Temp grab a starting position, and this is probably one of the most likely places that he could land. But again, it's an odd combination of players. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I think that you want someone to maybe have a different personality type when we talk about a roster like this, but it is undeniable based on the roles. It is understandable, but I think just kind of in general, you talk about this team, what it could be, it is a little bit odd, and I think it would be kind of strange to get used to. But again, Optic Gaming LA, still waiting for that fourth. I like to see Draza potentially kind of get a little bit more recognition for what he did toward the end of last season. But again, we talk about the roles, how those work when it comes into 4v4. It is going to be different. And finally, Toronto Ultra, a roster, a franchise that has been talked about a lot in the news as of late, and not for really positive reasons. Kleenex and Cammy are confirmed to be here. And I will say, for those that haven't already heard about it, essentially there is a major conversation, a lot of Twitter conversation going around between Brack and the Toronto Ultra. You can feel free to look it up yourself. We're not going to go into the massive details about it, but essentially there were some conflicts, and Brack, who was trying to go home, Toronto Ultra didn't allow it. It seemed as if it was a very reasonable reason for why Brack did want to visit home. A lot of details that are kind of being involved there, and from a media standpoint, it does not look good on the Ultra and the way that they released their statement. So I think that has the ability to hinder players that want to sign here. And the rumor going around right now is that it sounds like Bance and Methods are going to return, meaning that the only player who would not come back to the Ultra starting lineup, because we obviously switched from 5v5 to 4v4, would in fact be Classic. And then there's also a rumor going around that Insight could possibly be coming in as a substitute. We talked about the Singularity, kind of EU Challenger player, guy who has a history with Kleenex, had a fantastic season kind of all throughout. We talked about Singularity, who pretty much started in EU, went to North America, came back to Europe, had some really good success there with that roster. So excited to see someone like that get the recognition that they deserve. But when we talk about the Toronto Ultra specifically, I think that right now Bance and Methods are not necessarily on the fence, but I think that they are kind of maybe waiting, kind of getting their options. I think if you are the Ultra, you're very happy with the players that you've already locked in. We talked about a guy like Cammy, who showed fantastic progression throughout the year. Someone like Kleenex, who looked fantastic toward the end of the season as well. A roster who made a number of different substitutes, had a 10-man roster, the only team in the CDL to do that. I think they want to kind of get away from that position, at least for now. And so I think that it is interesting what they could try to come around with, but it would make sense if you are the Ultra to kind of keep hold, if you will, of that 4-man team, keep hold of a majority of them moving into next year, especially considering the way that you ended out the season. You win your own home series, you play well at champs. Overall, your end of the season was way better than your start of the season. And again, I think holding on to guys like Cammy and Kleenex are only going to be good for their progression. And I think that we will see Methods and Bance most likely sign here. Bance maybe is holding on to a potential call from someone like the London Royal Ravens. Methods could possibly be getting a few calls as well, depending on a few different things. But I think just based on the brand that Methods has, he was kind of the face of this team throughout the entirety of the year, as he was pretty much the only player that stayed on the roster from pretty much start to end. So again, those are kind of just where my thoughts sit with these teams for right now. There's a lot of potential to see some major switch-ups. There's a lot of potential to see some major moves start to form around, but those are my opinions for now, and I'm obviously excited to kind of find out exactly what the rosters are going to be looking like heading into Cold War.